book, almost on page 106, Nun Gimel Beis. Halacha Hey. Aseret Hashvatim. The 10 tribes, Enatzim Lachs, are not going to come back. Shemar Yeshachim Eretz Acheres, they were sent to another land, Kayom Mazel, like this day. Mayom Holich Ben Achozim, just like days to go and do not come back. Afein, so today, Holchim Ben Achozim, they went and they do not come back to Rabbi Akiva. No, Mayom Afil Ma'ir, just like a day, gets dark and then illuminates again. Afein, Kshiafel land, so today, even though now it's dark for them, Sida Liola, eventually it's going to become illuminated again, and they're going to come back. This Rabbi Akiva holds them no portion world to come. They do not see the eventual future, the restoration. What Pasuk teaches us this? And he cast them out to the land, like the same, Mayom, Olech ben Chozer, Afhen Olchi ben Chozin, Divrei Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Shimon Yehuda Ish Bar Akum, or Akus, Amar Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Shimon, he said name Rabbi Shimon, Imayu Ma'asem Kayoim, though if the Kayom Azeh, if their deeds remain like they were today, Ein Chozin do not come back. And if not, Chozin Hein, they do come back. If Geriad said it come to the world to come, back in Masechta Megillah, I brought down a girsa from Rabbi Avram Elliot Kaplan that it should be Boim Geri Toshav Lasi Lavo. Even though there was no Geri Toshav at the time by Sheni, and that's only after the Korban, nevertheless it means Tzadiki Umus Olam, Chasidi Umus Olam will come to the world to come. Atulinus, who in the Bavli is called Antoninus, right? Rabbi Yehuda Nasi's friend. Antoninus Bar B'Rosh Kulam. He comes ahead of them all. Okay? Now, skip one line and we'll come back. Ismil Armid Loiskar Antolinus. Some say he wasn't a complete gear. Ismail Armin, some say, or some indication, I should say, Shizgar Antolinus, that he was Megar. Going back to the line we read before, it says, Mach Mamina. What's the case in which to derive this? I was waiting for you to come in.
Sorry, I called my son, called me.
Okay. Mach Mamina, what do you derive this? Where do you derive this from? Shiro, so Yetziv and Mino, Pochus B'Rekum, they saw him go out in a shoe, albeit the shoe was broken, it was a shoe on Yom Kippur. From this he wanted to deduce that he wasn't the ger, because he went out with shoes on Yom Kippur. Says, no. Shekain afilu Reish Shamayim yetzibakach. Even in Reish Shamayim, sometimes there were shoes on Yom Kippur. There were shoes on Yom Kippur if, they're going in a Makom B'tunaf. Or in this case, certainly, was a broken shoe, so logic dictates that it could be something which you could wear in Yom Kippur. So that's not a proof that he wasn't Megayer. Then skipping to the end line, because we did it before, the Yerushalmi Gil is much better, but it's not worth spending the time fixing it up here to make it proper. 7 lines into the wide lines. 7 lines into the wide lines. Last word on the line. Antulinus Asa Gabi Rebbe. He came to Rebbe. He said, Chami, look here. You're going to give me the from Leviathan to eat in the world to come? Armalei in. He said yes. Now, this is Zichar while he was still a goy. We don't know if he's Megai or not, but this definitely was a goy, because the next line. Armalei said, Min imar pischa lo chaltani. For on the Korban Pesach, you don't give me to eat. Min Leviathan chaltani la'amadas, you're going to give me from Leviathan to eat in the world to come. So, of course, it means he wasn't a Jewish, because the reason why they wouldn't give the Korban Pesach, what? Did have bris milah on it? So it's not a bris milah, can't even the Korban Pesach. So in this they want to do, so of course he wasn't yet Megar at the very least. So it's interesting, you get from Leviathan. Of course Leviathan is Nishkan Raya, Leviathan is a fish, right? You can give it to eat from a fish, a carbon you can't give him, but a Leviathan you can give him. Anyway, so at any event, Armalei, he said, Man Avalach, he said, what can I do for you? Uveimar Pesach, by the Korban Pesach, it says, it says, any uncircumcised cannot eat it, and you did not circumcise. Adam Raz teaches us the Lord's guy on Tolinus, at least at this stage on Tolinus was not Megayer. What happened? The Shama came once he heard this. Also, Vagir Garmei went and was Megayer himself. Asagar Gabi Rebbe came to Rebbe Armalei, so he said, Chami, because you don't see, look at my bris milah. He's taking pride in his bris milah, right? So Armalei, so he said, Pedili lo istakaltis miyomai, I never looked at my own bris milah. I never looked at my own aver. You want me to look at your bris milah? I don't look at people's bris milahs, not sneas. Adam Ras teach us that these guarantees that he was Megar. Why was Rabbi Yehuda Nazi called Rabbeinu Kodesh? Lo he peeped me, lost him yom. He never looked at his bris milah his entire life. V'lomni Koshmo Nochem Ish Kodesh Kodashim is a fellow named Nochem. The Bible is called Menachem. Ish Kodesh Kodashim was called the Holy of Holies. The low is Takel Shali Bit B'Tzuras Ma'Beim Yom. He never looked at the image on a coin in his entire life. Now the image of the coin he was makbu because of Avodah Zarah. Because it used to be obviously the imprint on the coin was a king or a god, so he never looked at that. Antolinas Asagabe Rebbe. Antolinas once came to Rebbe. Amalei said, Tali Olai, daven for me. Amalei said, Rebbe, daven for him. He said, Yishvinach min hadot sinto. May God save you from cold. Okay? See, it says, Lifnei Krosom, from the cold, concerning which it says, Lifnei Krosom miyamo, before his ice, who will be able to stand? Amalei said, Rebbe, Leisa da tzul yasir, is this not superfluous davening? Ksisoch techaseh, wear your coat, but tinasa and the cold goes away. So that's not, you don't have to daven for that. Amalei, so Rebbe said, fine, let me daven this for you. Yeshvinach, may Hashem save you min hadein shura, from heat, the nafak bam which comes out of the word. Amalei said, oh, hot, that's a prayer. If that's what you're dying for, may your prayer be heard. Because it says, nobody is saved from the wrath of Hashem, and we darshan mechuma so from the heat of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rabbi Yochanan talked before air conditionings, there wasn't much you could do about heat. You could always do about cold. You could always do something, right? Rabbi Yochanan, the congregation of Yochanan ben Kirech was one of the people in Bayis Sheni, went back, or Bayis Rishon actually, went back to Egypt. He went there to settle in Egypt. So, have no portion of the world to God. My time, why? Because it says about them in Hosea, Hashem Bogdu and God, they were treasonous. Kibanim Zarim Yoldu, they gave birth to foreign children. Atoyochem Chadash Chokem, now their new ways will eat their portion. Elazar B'Yehuda Chadamar once said, Lo Gol Achnasu Arelim. They didn't go to Gos until they finally uncovered up their bris milah and became arelim again. The Choram on the other said, Lo Gol Achnasu Mamzerim. They didn't go to Gos until they produced progeny which were Mamzerim. Manam Arelim, who says Arelim, it learns out that they were Zorim. It says in both that they were estranged from Milah and Mitzvos. Lamadam Mamzerim, who says that they produced Mamzerim, learns that Zorim, they were estranged from Avoseim from their forefathers by producing Mamzerim. Rabbi Yochanan said, Lo Gol Yisrael, I'm still not going to Golos, Achinasu Esrim Ba'arba Kito Shaminim, until they had 24 groups of scoffers. These 24 groups, says the Kikalaw, that were corresponding to the 2 groups per Shevet in Am Yisrael. The Choran Hamar, the other says, Lo Golu, I'm sorry, of my time when Pasuk teaches us this, the Sholech, Ben Adam Sholech Yisrael, Hashem says, I'm sent you to Yisrael, El Goyim HaMordim Asher Mordu Bi. That's it. Game's over. To the Goyim who rebelled against me. El Goyim Morid Enksivka doesn't say to the rebellious nation singular. El Goyim HaMordim Asher Mordu Bi. To the Goyim who rebelled in plural. So if it's 12 tribes times in plural, so that means there are 24 groups of scoffers. And of course, 24 is a significant number because it corresponds to 24th form of Tanakh. So that until they had those 24 groups of scoffers, they didn't go to Golos. It says about the 10 tribes, they and their forefathers were criminal against me to this very day. Rabbi Nachman said, L'sholosh golus go Yisrael. Am Yisrael went to Golus 3 times. The Am Yisrael went to Golus in the 10 tribes 3 places. Echol lifnim minhar Sanbation, one behind the Sanbation River, the famous river. Echol davshar Antioch, one to the side of Antioch. Echol shar Onan, and one, this is really a mystical thing, where the cloud came down and covered them. Kishem shegolu l'shosh golios, just like the 10 tribes into the 3 golios. Kach golu shevet Ruvain, v'gad v'chatzi shevet Menashe. So to the tribes lived in the Trans-Jordan. Ruvain guarded half, Menashe went l'shosh golios, 1 to 3 exiles. My time of Pasuk teaches us this. It says about the tribes that they went in the way of their sister. Vanasati koscha, and I put her cup in your hand. When they come back from these 3 exiles. My Pasuk tells us, tell the prisoners to go out. Those are the ones beyond the Sanbation River. To those who are in darkness, that part of the Pasuk refers to those whom the cloud covered. And on the pathways they will graze from all the heights of their grazing. Those who went to the sides, I guess there were high places of Antioch, they'll also come back. Okay? That's basically the end of Agadah for now. The people of the idolatrous city, the city which was missionized and worshipped Avodah Zarah, they are put to death by what form? Sword. Right. The is where people who have no, so they have no portion in the world to come. Okay, they have no chayik olam haba. That's what it's brought down here. And the Bnei Moshe brings down the post, so it says Bnei Belial, means those who will not go up to olam haba. So they came out from within you, and they missionized the members of the city, to say, that let's go worship Avodah Zarah, the whole bit. Now, they're not killed. This is once around the topic. We talk about the halachas v'nei tachlis. Once you say they lost olam haba, we enter the topic of the halachas. They're not killed. Until the missionaries are from that city, and from that tribe, until the majority of the city is found to be missionized, until the missionizers are men. If the missionizers were women, ktanim, and children, or a minority of the city was missionized, or the missionaries come from beyond the city, and the cities like individuals, instead of getting sword and their money being destroyed, they get stoned. Every person in the city who worships Avodah Zarah requires 2 witnesses and warning. There's a severity by an individual's kuvah Avodah Zarah than multitude's kuvah Avodah Zarah. The individuals get skila. That's where their money is not banned. When the majority of the city worships Avodah Zarah, then they're put to death by sword. That's where their money is lost. Okay, so they get 1 severity and one leniency, 1 severity. Okay, says my ear. It's got to be a city, lo kfar, not a village. Ir, a city, lo krach, not a metropolis. Vushatei, so what has that defined? The first time it says, it's an amazing statement, some people just want to take it out. Vushatei mechamisha rasora, it's got to be, there ought to be a city, not a village, and not a metropolis, it's got to have from 5 to 10 people. Less than 5 is a village, more than 10 is a metropolis. So obviously it's very difficult to call a city of more than 10 people a metropolis, okay? So again, as I said, there are various different gersos here which attempt to rectify the situation. Be that as it may, Rabbi, we don't pass him like Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says, it has to be a minimum of 100 to be considered a city. And up to the majority of a shevet is considered to be a city if they all live in the same place. But more than a majority of shevet, it's already not considered to be a city. It's considered to be, like the the dwelling place of the entire Shevet, and therefore you go make an Yeridachas out of it. Now, Shnaim Shidichu, the Shraita so changes the gears, and I like what he does. He says, Shnaim Shidichu, two people missionized. Vosam Shnaim Mudchu, but these two people, I'm changing the gears, so basically what the Shraita Israel says. Those two people themselves were missionized, B'Shnaim Acherim, from two other people. Osam Shnaim Shehudchu, those guys who were found to be Medichim, so it happens to be Nidachim. So it happens like this. Reuven and Shimon missionized Levi and Yehuda. Then Levi and Yehuda went to missionize the rest of the city. What did Levi and Yehuda get? Normally the Medichim get skila. Right. And the other people get sword, right? So here Reuven and Shimon for sure get skila. They're individuals. The city gets sword. They're a city. But what about Lev and Yehuda who were missionized by Reuven and Shimon? What's their penalty? What do they get? Okay? So it's in this chain reaction scenario. So it says, do we give them to actually, you can go chumrah both accounts, give them the halach medichin and say that they have to get punished by skila. In halach nidachin, the people who are missionized and say that they lose their money, right? Because there would be l'kan be to say that they lose their money, at the same time that they're killed not by sword but by stone. So of course, what does the Gemara answer in such a case? No. The Gemara doesn't give an answer. Okay. Yeah. The principle in the Yerushalmi which precedes the Spindel principle is most questions are not answered. Right? We know that. So this question is not answered. Let's say they're a minority of inhabitants of Jews from birth, but if you include Gerim, which I assume is Gerei Tzedek, and Toshav and Gerei Toshav, are they mashim to a rove? There's a very interesting Or Samech, very beautiful Or Samech, although I don't know if it's Pshat. He wants to say, why is there a question by Gerei Tzedek? It's Pashut, he's a Jew, right? Or Gerei Toshav, it's Pashut, he's not a Jew, right? So he wants to say the interesting thing. He wants to say Gerei Toshav, who worships Avodah Zarah's penalty is sword. Any may know the penalty is sword. If he converts, his penalty is stoning. So therefore, normally when a ger toshav when a goy converts, he gets off the hook for all the various he committed as a goy because the penalties are not the same. Penalties have to carry over. So the question is here: since normally for Avodah Zarah, the penalty is not the same, would have gone off the hook. But here in Idachas, if the city will become an Idachas, then the penalty is the same. Because it was sword before and it's going to be sword now. So the question is, do we look at the net result, which is that it's going to go from sword to sword, and therefore he's shaykh the edachas and therefore he joins? Or do I look at the interim, he goes from sword to stone, it's just that if there's an edachas, then it'll go back down to sword again, and therefore it can't switch from one to the other. Okay? So that's the way he learns the Gemara. I don't know if it's Pashut Pshat, but it's a very cute way of learning. Okay? Now, we know all their property was lost. What if there are well or dugouts, ponds, and the pens of the non-domestic animals, of birds and of fish, right? What about these ponds and pens? So it says more First of all, the birds which fly above more than 10 tefachim above the ground, what's their halacha? So the Gemara doesn't actually give an answer. The minor point I want to say the whole question of the Gemara is based on the premise that anything in a pen or in a pond is going to be separated and distinct, but we don't really give an answer as to what actually the status is. Anyway, because what? Is it? Okay. Rav Shimon Omer, now, the Shara changes the gear so here in order to make this not a non sequitur, in order to make it continue with the previous quantity, it throws in a brisa. The brisa says, Medichi and Idachas get skila, according to Rav Shimon Omer, but Chenek, the Medichin themselves, the people who do the missionizing. So on this they had the following conversation, but I'm not going to get into it in great detail because it's kind of unnecessary. Rabbi Shimon says that the burning is more severe than stoning. We've had this shita several times in the past. Rabbanan say chamura skila misrei, for stoning is more severe than burning. Rabbi Shimon chomer chenek mihereg. Rabbi Shimon says that suffocating is more severe than sword. Rabbanan say no. Chomer hereg michenek. That's more severe. In fact, the sword is more severe than suffocation. Okay. Not going to get into why this is brought down here. Again, as so deals with it, we go to Lochazai. Haketak is Yerushalmi. You should truly smite the people who live in that city by sword. Hachameres, a donkey train. Hagameles, a camel train. Overes makom which passes from place to place. And they were in the city for 30 days. That's important. So after 30 days, they technically become a resident of the city. It's brought down halach in so many places. 30 days, what term is residency usually. So if they were there for 30 days, harel matzion. They say the city, as long as they deprive the city as being majority idolaters, they save the city from being destroyed. Okay? Is that clear?
I think so.
Yeah. So if it's less than 30 days, not going to work. And vice versa, if they make up the majority and are part of the majority for Avodah Zarah, then the city will be destroyed. Okay? So says the Gemara, a very interesting question. Says the Gemara, not yet actually, for still in the Mishnah. Arei Matzinos Cherem, sorry. Hachrei Mosa is the quote from the Apostle in the first word line. Hachrei Mosa, eradicate the city of Iskol, Shaban, everything which is there, and its animals based on sword. We can't remove from these deduce Nirtzei Tzadikim Shebesoicho, the private Tzadikim in the air and the Tachas, Oivdim. They're lost. It's military bail's property. Even though we don't kill Tzadikim, we destroy their property. If they have assets offshore, then they get to keep that plating. Those don't have to be destroyed. But Shoyim, the assets of the Shoyim, whether they're in the city, outside the city, of them, you cause them to be ruined. Rabbi Shimon says, you only kill the animals which are in the city of the Bechoros, not only its animals, not Bechoros, which belongs to the Kohen. Similarly, or the Mizbeach. Nor Meiser, which belongs also to the Mizbeach, or to the, whatever, it doesn't belong to the, you can't give it over. Shlola, its own loot, that goes, that could be part and parcel of the deal. Lo kesef hekdesh v'meiser sheni shebesocha. Not the kesef money of hekdesh meiser sheni, that's not burnt. It's not part of the deal of the burning. Rabbi Yochanan asks a question like this. Very interesting question. What about the custom shaitels? What happens to them? Now, there are actually two versions here. One version is that the question was about custom shaitels, and they get to keep them. And the shaila is, your money you lose. Now, of course, even the tzaddikim, they lose their money, but not their clothing. So what's the din of shaitels? The din of money, possession, or the din of clothing? That's one way of learning, assuming that it's a wig. The other way of learning is that actually what we're asking about is the hair which is still attached to their head. But women, their hair is oimed ligozes. Men, they probably don't have so much hair, and it's probably not worth that much. But women, their hair, which is oimed ligozes, that's the shiloh. Do they have to cut it off and burn it? Can they take that hair out of the city with them? Okay? So says the Gemara, and the truth is, if you learn like that, like the second shot, then it works out better with the Rambam, because the Rambam passes here l'chumra, that you have to get rid of the hair of the tzaddikim, right? So the thing is, the question is why? Because in the Bible, he asks the same question and doesn't give an answer. In Yerushalmi, it asks this question and gives an answer that it's okay to take it out. So the Pnei Moshe is bothered. Normally, when there's a question in the Bible which is unanswered, Yerushalmi does answer it. we go Rambam paskins like the Yerushalmi's answer. In this case, it's a cool answer. Except in this case, how come the Yerushalmi doesn't paskin? How come the Baron doesn't paskin like the Yerushalmi's answer? So you can answer this very simply by saying that the Gemara in the Bavli was talking about a real wig, but the Yerushalmi is talking about her own hair, right? With the rig, so then it's a bailoiv. You have to be machmer. But her own hair, the Rambam never says that you have to cut off her hair and shave it and get rid of it. So therefore, that might be a difference between the Bavli and Yerushalmi, two different topics, and therefore two different psukim in the Rambam. Says more vaytel again, right? Nishmina me adol tzara from here, kill me adol from here. Rabbi Yerushalmi Omer. Hashem says, "B'emta, it's animals. Lo b'chayres, lo ma'isha shebesoicha, not b'chor ma'isha, which is in the city. Shlola, it's loot. Lo kesav ektish u'ma'isha shebesoicha, not the money of ektish and ma'isha sheini." And now, according to Gilin Ephraim, who says the question is a question of the hair which is attached to their heads, he tosses in the line. This is part of the Tosefta. B'mechubar lekarka, ben kach or ben kach mutter, where it's still connected to the ground, even if it's on the verge of going to the bar, but still permitted. Shneimar says tikboitz, what you can gather, prat lemechubarim, to exclude things you cannot gather because they're connected to the ground. That's not in here. But according to the Ephraim, well, it's a question of not pe'anochis, not hair which is off your head, which could be learned from, maybe from these cases, but even that very tenuously. He learns it very beautifully. It's from the end of the Brisa, where it talks about Mechuber, and says Mechuber is not bar and parcel of the punishment of Dachas. So therefore, this Sidkonis does not have to actually shave off her head and get rid of her hair. She's okay without doing that. Okay? Again, that works out with the Psak of the Rambam. Says more further. Now, the truth is, I looked at this for some time today, and Kedarki B'Kodesh, I hold everybody else learned it wrong except for me. Okay, the next Gemara. Okay? Says more further, Kachi Irni Dachas. The Kachi Dachas, Rabbi Yochanan says there is no Milah. There are Korbanos there's no Milah in the Korbanos. Now, why is that? So, all the different portions give different reasons. The Gilin Ephraim, the Ritbaz, the Pnei Moshe. I don't like any of the reasons. I think the reason, based on the Gemara we're going to see on the base, is that he holds it's like the Bible were already misyoish from it, because they're going to die. So therefore, it's as if it's ownerless from now, because they're not going to get a chance to sacrifice it. So therefore, they give up hope. Therefore, it's no milah. So it's like carbon shein lo bailim, and therefore it has no milah. Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish Hamar, Rishim Lakish Hamar. Molim when he holds, it ain't over till it's over. Until Basin kills the animals, it's still there for Shaykh Me'ilah, because they're still karbanos, technically speaking, until they're killed. Says the Gemara, Mesa, Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish, Al Daitcha, according to you, the Tamar who said Molim Bohem, who said there is Me'ilah, Nisnei Sheish Chatos, it should be Mesos. Let's say 6 Chatos die, not just 5. Now, this is a very interesting proof he wants to say to him. He wants to say, look, you hold that this chatos, now everybody's like, very important. The Rambam Paskin, obviously he was not going to pass Rish Lakish of Rabbi Yochanan. He's got to pass like Rabbi Yochanan. Yet the Rambam Paskins that these chatos in the city, they die. Meaning you starve them to death like any other chatos mesa. So what's Rabbi Yochanan asking Rish Lakish? He's going to ask, so it's a chatos mesa. He's got all that you kill the chatos, that you starve the chatos to death. So what he's asking is like this. Rabbi Yochanan holds, according to me, it's a different type of chatos mesa. The real chatos mesos, one of them is where the owner preceded in death his korban, then you have to starve his korban to death. But in this case, it's a unique case, it's a special case, even though the owner was not yet dead, nevertheless his chatos has to die because he's not going to sacrifice it, he won't have a chance to sacrifice it. So therefore, it makes sense it's not enumerated in the classic list of all the chatos mesos. The five chatos mesos. But according to you, there's a classic case. Because he holds that it ain't over till it's over. And therefore only comes a chatos meso after the death of its owner at the hands of Beis Din. So if that's the case, why is this case not enumerated as one of the Chatos Mesos cases? This should be enumerated as well. Says Marmalade, so he said, you know why it's not enumerated? Because here, Shekain Afilu Oila Bedor Meso. By Yerni Dachas, it's a unique case in Kol HaTerakula. In Kol HaTerakula, the only animal which ever dies is a Chatos, right? But a Chatos Shemesu Ba'aleh. But here, even Oilos die. And there's Takapaskin that way in the Rambam. Here, also, what are you going to do with them? There's nothing you can do about them. You can't redeem them. They didn't have a moon, right? The owner died. So therefore, it's out of technicality, they're not enumerated there either. Because the only enumerated there are the case where only a Chatas dies. But here, even an Ola dies. Now, Rabbi Hila b'Shem Mu'er said, Molim Bohem, why is it Takamila in them? Mishum Kache Mumar La'avodas Kochavim. Because the guy's still alive. He's a Mumar La'avodas Zor, and he's on his way out. He's going to be killed momentarily. But right now, it's like any other korban which is consecrated by Mumar La'avodas Zor, the korban is valid korban. So if that's the case before the guy said for Karvu, let's chaparite and sacrifice his korban. Can't do that. Hashem Zevach Rishoyim Toeva. They're repugnant evildoers. You can't sacrifice their korban. Now, Rav Yuchel said, why did I say my pshat that I just said? Because of the next case, which clearly indicates that was the pshat in the previous case. And the other Meforshim don't pay attention to the continuity of the cases. Shame on them. Rav Yuchel said, they also argue Rabbi Yochanan Shlokish about the following case. Shor Sheyatili Sakel, oxen is going to have to be stoned. Needs to aid it some of the aid found the aim is Zoimim. Rabbi Yochanan called Kodim Zachar Yochanan said, it's already Yehush from now. Even though later on it might come out that the Eidim were Zoimim, nevertheless it was already Yehush beforehand. So therefore it loses its owner now. That was a mistake. It ain't over till it's over. So that's how, when I learned this case, I went back and I said it must be the previous case was also a case where the Achini Tachas, Rabbi Yochanan, the moment they're judged, it's over. Gendik, they hold no shadows their karbanas. Their karbanas are going lamisa, not as a chatas mesa, but because the owners are about to be killed. Shlokish holds no, it ain't over till it's over. Maybe Beis Din will come up with clemency or a kula of some sort. So it ain't over till it's over, and therefore there still is Mila. Chen ever treated to the Lord, the same about ever going out to be killed. The inside of Zom, the ain't find to be Zomir, Reilcham, Marzochel, Hatzir, said he already got its freedom, because he already made Vahef, because Bailan gave a hope. Hashem Elokah, Shamar Yehu Shal Toz, it's never too late. You can still say it was a mistake. Okay? Halaches, no? Sounds good? Halaches. Take all the loot and put it in its street. You may Rechov if it doesn't have a street. Also Rechov, you make it a street. In the Bible it says that that's only one person's opinion, I forget whose. Bayinim Krok, the opinion which holds Bayinim Krok, you need the pasuk literally. If its street was outside of it. Okay, so only you bring the street inside the wall. Shemar says a total chava. Inside the city, and you burn the city. That's kosher, I know it's loot. Shlola, it's loot, lo shlo shlomayim, not the loot of heaven. We just saw this stuff. Mikar from here they introduced hayek deishes of besoicho, any hektish which is in it. Yipadu is redeemed. Truma's here kravu, and the truma is rotted. Of ma'aser sheni v'kisvei hakodesh and ma'aser sheni and holy writ. Yigon zu are putting gniza. Kol Hashem lokecho, it is a korban whole unto God. Rabbi Shimon said, if you make judgment in Edachas, I attribute to Kilo as if you make a whole Ola before me. It should be a eternal mound. Loti Bone Odush will not be built again. Loti Asif Safilu Ganetsu Paradisim shouldn't even be made into gardens and orchards. Even Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Akiva Loti Bone Odu will not be built again. Look, Moshe Hoyso. It won't be built again to what it once was. I will not see gardens and orchards, so we can make gardens and orchards. Make the Yerni Dachas Park. Okay? Maybe we can make it a theme park. Okay, the nothing of this cherem should remain in your hands. Nothing of the loot. Or that God should return from His anger. He'll give you mercy. Have mercy upon you. And answer. Cause matter as long as the Shem of the world is anger of the world. Of the Shem and the world Shem are lost in the world. The anger goes out of the world as well. Rabbi Shimon says, and he's going really in the last Mishnah, on the Mishnah of Nichsei Tzadikim. Property has no das. Why do you have to burn the property of the tzaddikim? What did it do wrong? Property has no das. Since property, since the tzaddikim pursue property, that's what caused them to live in Yerushalmi. Why do Jews live in Los Angeles? Right? Well, they live in Los Angeles because they want to amass property, right? So therefore, that's the case. So when Los Angeles slides into the Pacific Ocean, so then they'll have the tzaddikim as well, right? They'll lose their property, not their lives, their property. All right? On return, the Torah says, you should sorrowful burn the property. If we burn property which causes people to go astray, how much more will God burn the people who incline people for a good pathway to a bad pathway? Omer Elazar said, Mochiv Dover, proof of this matter, precedent meaning, is light, right? Below Lot only went to live in stone because he could make a lot of money there, right? So he went out with his hands on his head without any possessions. Although it says Mahari Molid Shama, quickly go there. It's sufficient for you. You can get take your soul. Nothing else are you taking with you. See, now this is where actually the rest of the next few lines we already had previously in the parak. It's brought down here because Yericho had a similar lochah to Nidachas. Ksiv it says Biyama Bana Chil Beis Eli Yericho. In the days of Achov Chil Beis Eli built Yericho. Chil min Yehoshaphat. Chil was from the southern kingdom, a subject of Yehoshaphat. Yericho and Yericho, the city built was in Binyamin. So how come Achov is blamed? Because we attribute the negative things to a person negative, and Achov was a negative guy. So it says, it was long, you fame Mari here, which I thought was important, but what it means is that he says that Achov saw Chil saw Achov worshipping Avodah Zarah and not undergoing Moshe's curse, like we said earlier in Parakah, about Tzadz Shemaim Lo Yeh Motor. So he said, if Achav's not undergoing a curse, so therefore I can build the Yericho and also not undergo a curse. So as Megal and Chav was Achav's inspiration, so to speak, which led to Chil's Aveira. So it says tomorrow, it says, Ba'aviram ben Bechor, you saw that he found it with the death of Aviram his Bechor, with Skuf Tiro, the Skuf Tiro, he closed its gates, so all his children died. This time the Russia from where to learn, the he didn't learn, he was a big Russia. Why did he do all this? Because they wanted to enhance their money. And therefore they got this affliction. Okay, diminish. Even as of Chil, the survivors, they became more and more diminished. It says, like the word of God, the word of Israel. Asher diber b'yad Yeshua b'nu, said in the hands of Yeshua. Kolil Hashem Okach Yericho is supposed to be Kolil. Like the Nidachas, nothing should cling to the hand, just like Nidachas. Taishav Lazomer, the lowest Sabanu, Yechil didn't even build Yericho. Eliacheres Bano, he built another city, as you'll see momentarily, that too is also since he called it Yericho. Now, another point is, if Yericho does get rebuilt, even Beser, Mutar Atlesheba, you're allowed to live there. Yerushalmi. In other words, it's an issue to rebuild it, but not an issue to live on it. Now, getting back to the issue to build it, Rabbi Yosef Rishur ben Korach Omer, Rishur Yosef Rishur ben Korach said, Matamor Bana Seir as Yericho. Why does he say build the city Yericho? El Shloy Yevne Ir Acheres Ushma Yericho. Shouldn't build another city and call it Yericho, or Yericho should rebuild Yericho v'Yikro Shma Ir Acheres and call its name, called by another name. However, Lamaisa, if it got rebuilt, you're allowed to live there. So therefore, nowadays, that's what they rely on to go to the casino in Yericho. Just kidding. I mean, they rely on there is a place called Mitzvah Yericho, a Jewish settlement right outside, right? Okay? This gets back to our Mishnah. The Mishnah said, Rabbi Akiva said, Rabbi Akiva said, that Losi Bana Od means you can't build the way it was, but you can make out of it a theme park, right? So from this is derived the nature of another issue. It says you cannot go back in that way anymore to Mitzrayim. It means this is interesting heta. I don't remember this from the Bavli at all, and I assume it's not there. Only yeshiva you can't go back to live in Mitzrayim. However, you can go back to do business. For merchandise, and if you have to conquer Mitzrayim, it sounds like you're allowed to conquer Mitzrayim and live there. You're only not allowed to live in Mitzrayim when it's Egyptian. But if you conquer it, then you're allowed to live. At least that's what it sounds like. Okay. Going on to the next parak, next category of dead guys. These are people who are put to death by suffocation. Somebody who smites his father and mother. Somebody who kidnaps a Jew. A rebellious elder against the court. A lying prophet. Somebody who prophesies in the name of an avodah zarah. Somebody else with a married woman. The people put a plot to put to marry the daughter of a Kohen to death. Now, even though the daughter of a Kohen, what penalty does she get for having been Mizana? She gets Sreifa. Nonetheless, they get chenek the lighter death. Okay? Ubala, the people that deal with her, the same idea. Hamaka, even though she gets Sreifa, they'll only get chenek. Hamaka avivimo in a chayiv, somebody who smites his father and mother, is not liable at Shaspem B'chabur until he makes a wound in them. This is very by somebody who curses over somebody who smites his parents. So if you curse your parent after their parent's death, you're liable. If you want to hit your parent, wait till they're dead. If you hit your dead parent, you are part you are exempt. Okay? Says where we see a warning not to hit your father and mother. So it says it says by Basin when they smite an evildoer, only 40 no more. If they hit him another time, it's superfluous and it's a lava Russia Lamasakarecha. Basin is required to hit. Hare Tatap and Nunam Rav. Hare Mitzu He's commanded not to hit too hard. So therefore basically they were trying to find out Torah lav for the Isser of Makkah Aviv Amaze. So the rest, I thought Ein Masir Min Adin. We're actually making Kavachomer here. We're saying V'Shleich Beistin is not allowed to hit, so Kavachomer. Hello? So again, we're trying to find. So I don't know exactly this works because Chortza as Mazhir Min Adin, Mazhir Min Adin can't warn somebody based on the Kal V'Chomer. I don't know. Anyway, so we're looking for Shleich Beis. No, Shleich Beis allowed to hit. Now I'll take one more Kal V'Chomer. Now I'll take your parents. All right, whatever. And a Chayv Chesem and Chabur. Not liable to make a Chabura. That's interesting Gemara here because the Shaitas will change it around opposite the way it says here. Beis Chabura. What Chabura talk about? Chabura Shabbos, Chabura Nizakin. What Chabura now to make your parents? Now Chabura Shabbos, the Shaitas says the Yerushalmi argues in the Bavli. I do not remember this, but the Yerushalmi argues in the Bavli. The Bavli holds your chayiv on a Chabura on Shabbos, even if you make a what's it called, a contusion.
Oh.
A contusion is under the skin, right?
Yeah.
Even a contusion. Bavli holds Yerushalmi holds only chayiv if you motzi dam, like by shchita, because they learned that Chabura is like shchita where you actually produce blood. Blood comes out. The Bavli holds a chayav on a contusion. And by nizakin, if I hit you and I could make a contusion, everybody agrees I'm liable to pay. Both Bavli and Yerushalmi. So the Shayla says, what am I liable on my parent? It's like Shabbos, and therefore it's only if I produce blood, or if it's like nizakin, even I don't produce blood. So the Gemara's not going to answer this. Beis Chabura b'Chabur Shabbos chilus nizakin. Intem b'Chabur Shabbos, then it should be ad shah shechiser. Until you made I'm switching around like Shadda Zol does. Until you actually to produce blood. Then even I feel like even no blood came out. Halacha base. The Goyim Nevish B'Yisrael, if you kidnap another Jew, ain't a chayv, not liable, Shech Sen L'Shusa, until you bring him into your domain. Rabbi Namat Shech Sen L'Shusa V'Yishtavish Bo, until you bring him to your domain and you use him, and then afterwards you sell him, of course. Shamar B'Samer Bo, Omacharo, you use him or you sell him. I think actually we learned here is both, but I don't remember. Anyway, Agonim, I think it is. Yeah, it's on the bottom. Lech Shlomo changes that. Has to be all three. You change the girsa. Shamrei Samer Bo Mecharo, and the O here doesn't mean or, but it means as well. Agonim is beno. Somebody who steals his own son. You kidnap your own son. Nebuch. Now it happens nowadays, right? Ex-husbands, you know. Agonim is beno. Yochim ben broken Mechayev. Yochim says he's been broken. Says live. Choyim poacher. Choyim says he's exempt. So steal somebody who's half slave, half free man. No, they don't see. At least not very often. Right? It says liable or say not. Okay, most is where we had already in the previous in Perek Ches. I saw the neighbor showing how we know the first time you steal, you're liable. Meaning even before you sell you sell. Just for the stealing itself, you're liable. How Malchus. So it says it should be lo signova. The Yerushalmi changed it. Lo signova falls under the rubric of theft, which is present in Parshas Kedoshim. It's not yet a capital crime. I saw the neighbor shtia. How we know you're not allowed to steal second time, meaning that if you use them and sell them, that you're liable to a death penalty. That's learned from the lo signova and Aseret Adibros. Meaning lo signova, right? For this that's from lo signova, which is the Ten Commandments, because that's the capital crime. Now lo signovu can't change it yourself. Amanas the maker means even you're just doing it in order to needle that person. Lo signova shouldn't sell. Amanas shouldn't buy, steal, even lishma. Amanas shouldn't tashlum kevel in order to pay the guy double. Amanas shouldn't tashlum kevel arachamish in order to pay him 4 or 5 times. But bagmo mer lo signova shel chametz ganov. You shouldn't even steal your own stuff from somebody who stole from you. Shouldn't look like you're a thief. Rabbi Yosha said, Eno chayav, ben sor moreh, is not liable, ad shigno mos, until he steals money. Rabbi Yosha said, Eno chayav ad shizalz mos, he's only chayav if he makes some mockery of money. Ma shizalz mos, what does it mean to make a mockery of money? Manika, what do you tell you about? Im should be behu with a. If it's about individual, Damar holacham makamisha, a ben sor moreh says to the storekeeper, here's $5. Havli slosa, give me $3 worth of food. Shaita is an idiot. How are you going to kill him as being Ben Samar? It's Tamashaita. Other Chatlasi says, here's $3, Havli Chamisha, give me $5 worth of food. Barnashu. He's not a Ben Samar, he's a smart dude, right? He's getting a bargain. For $3 he's getting $5 worth of stuff. He's not a Zolel, he's not making a mockery of his father's money. And I never knew this before. But the Yerushalmi is saying, Zolel v'sovei means he's mezalzel on the money. And he gets drunk. Not that he's mezalzel on the food, he's mezalzel on the money. Okay. So what's mezalzel on the money? I'm going to tell you about. He says, here's $5. Avli chamisha, give me $5 worth of meat, but because I only eat $3 of wheat. And the zilzul is that he's buying much more than he's not being cheated, but he's buying much more than he needs. Hey, dino ganav, hey, dino gaza. What's a ganav? What's a gaza? Rabbi said, Ganav is even b'fnei edim, even in front of witnesses, as long as the owner's not around. That he's still Ganav b'fnei edim. However, Ganav they bailim, if he did in front of the owner, then Gazani, who then he's a Gazlan. Of course, the difference between whether we have to pay kefil or not. Rabbi said Me'ata. Now this one is back on Daf Mem Beis Amud Aleph, but actually the Mashbiach here says pshat slightly differently than we learned back there. It's a nice pshat. He says, you know what he says? How are you ever going to have well, based on our, let me say it like this, based on our sugya, it says if you kidnap a person, what's it called in Torah? Kohen Nefashos. So it's a form of Gneva, right? How are you Gneva? You're stealing the guy. Isn't it like, just we said, if you steal in front of the guy, then you're Goslin, right?
That's right.
So how can he be a Gonei Nefashos? It's got to be a Goslin Nefashos, right? So it says, well, from this we must deduce Me'ata, I feel this guy in the Geisa Ulabala. If you have in mind to steal the object and steal the owner with it, Azla is really superfluous. It's really the Rosh Tevis of Ein Zeh Gazlan. He's not a Gazlan, right? A Gazlan must be somebody who, in front of the master, wants to part the master with his money. But if you're willing to steal the master with his money, you must be a Ganav. That's what we do from kidnapping. Cute chap, okay? Hi, Dino Geislan. A great out there, Rabbi Zira. So what's a Gazlan according to Rabbi Zira? Rabbi Shulbar Suster, Rabbi Sherivo said that she's of Ne'asar B'nei Adam. Has to be that it's done in public, right? The issue is whether it's done in public or not, right? And, in other words, you have to remove an object from your friend in a public manner, okay? But if you remove the friend with the object, that's not a Gazlan. Says, if you do it in front of Masar B'nei Adam, Lav Dafka 10, I think. But B'nei Shekul means in public. And where do we derive this from? From Vayigzos Charis Mi'anam Mitri, where there was a public stealing of a spear for an Egyptian. That says if you steal your own son, you're liable. B'nei Israel, from the children of Israel. He's your child. My Tide Rabbanah who say no, you're not liable. Me'echov, it's got to be from your brethren. Not from your children. My time Rabbi Yehuda who says you chayiv even chatzi ever chatzi ben chorin. You're chayiv in stealing him because I feel me'echov with a mem from your brothers. If you mitzvah even he who's partially your brother. My time Rabbanah, what's larger Rabbanah say he's got to be fully free. Me'echov means achiakulo achiv. That you should. We don't. Me'echov means from your brother, but your brother has to be completely your brother. Okay? Halacha Gimel. Zakei Mamri Al Pi Basin. I know somebody who wrote an article once in one of the YU publications about how the Zakei Mamri is really a tragic figure. He's a tragic person who's willing to stick out his neck and have his life taken away from him because of his pursuit of truth. Which of course is a Narishkeit. Because obviously truth is determined not by Svara in these matters, but by the hashpah, which of the Sanhedrin, so therefore it's a Narishkeit. But he wrote a whole article about this. Okay, the main YU Torah journal wouldn't print it. He had to print in some Pikarsish journal put up by somebody else. I don't know exactly, but anyway, be that as it may. A few years ago, 2-3 years ago. Oh well, no. Maybe 5. Maybe time flies. Maybe 5-6 years ago. Zogim Amri Al Pi Basin. A Zogim Amri is on court. In other words, it's not somebody who goes and makes rebellious utterances, issues his own Das Torah. It means that he goes, argues against the Sanhedrin. Shemite says, Keep alei davar davar mishpasoim will be beyond you in matters of judgment. Ben dam ledam between blood and blood, ben din ledam between judgment, and you got the basin and you argue in the Sanhedrin. Shlosha bati dina yusham. There were 3 courts in the Beis HaMikdash. Echad Pesach Harbayis, one of the opening of the Temple Mount. Echad Pesach Hazar, one of the opening of the Temple Courtyard. Echad Bishkazos, and one in the Chamber of the Hewn Stone. They came to one of the opening of the Bayis, Voimer, and the Zoki Marik say, Kachtor, Rashti vid Kachtor Shuchaverai. This is how my friends darshan in my city. Okay? He actually argued already on the basis in his own city. Right? Kachli Mati is how I talk Kachli Duchaverai. So this is how my friends thought. If they know that law, they said that law to them. Not they go up to court. This is where court cases like Court of Appeals. They come to one of the opening of the courtyard. Voimer says, this is what I said, my friend said. This is I taught, this is how my friends taught. If they know the Allah from them, they would say, they come to a great Sanhedrin, Shebis HaGozis within the chamber of the Stone, Shemishom Torah Yesis L'chol Yisrael. And the Torah goes on to all of it, so Shneeman says, Minamokom Ma'u Asher Yivchar Hashem, for that place which Hashem chose. Now, he's still not a Zokin Mamri, even if he argues on Sanhedrin. He can rump and grump, he's still not a Zokin Mamri. Chazali, if he goes back to the city, Vishona, and learns over again, believe me, he teaches again, Hidech Shlomo, like he learned, says, those 70 guys, what do they know? Ichvei's Besser. He's still okay. Right? He's still off the hook. Potter. It's only if he paskins against, then he's chayav. And Lamai says, you can argue on Chazal as well. We just can't paskin against them. Okay? So Shneimai says, Isha Sheyasa Bezodon, somebody who does intentionally, V'goymer Eno Chayav Achur La'asos. He's not Chayav until he paskins to do. Halacha Limmaisa. HaTalmid Shora Potter La'asos Potter. Talmud is saying that Zokim Mamre is exempt. Nimtza Chumro is Chumra that he's now at the paskin. Here is this Kula that exempts us from becoming a Zokim Mamre. Ksiv says, Kipalei Michot Davar Mishpat. Now, Kipalei Mamre means Magid Shemufla based because of that. It's about the outstanding member of the Sanhedrin in his own city. So Lav Dafki is outstanding member means he has to be Roy Lo Ra, right? He has to be suitable to be a member of the Sanhedrin. Mimcha, now this is a fascinating thing. Mimcha, it seems to be that, I'm not sure in this Gemara, if this enumerated the reasons to go up to Yerushalayim, to seek the word of the Sanhedrin, or it's enumerating the areas which should come as Zokin Mamre. If it's the latter, it's mind-bogglingly chiddush. It says in Milchama, it's even in matters of Eitzah, things that have to do with your personal advice. Davor zu Haggadah, which would sound like you couldn't even argue the Sanhedrin go to marriage of Haggadah. But that doesn't really, it's difficult to perceive of that. So I'd rather say that these are reasons to go up to Yerushalayim. You want to hear what the Sanhedrin say, do that say. But Zokim Mamre is only Lamais about halachic hearings. Although I'm not clear about this, not clear for this Gemara. Beidam dam between blood and blood. Beidam mila dam besulim between blood of mila and blood of besulim. Beidam nida blood of nida dam ziva dam tsaras. Now, all these things are indeed topics which are relevant to Zokim Mamre. Beidin ladinas, beidin of moments, and infoshes, monetary claims and capital claims. Beidin ladim, and judges. Ben Iskon Israfim between issues that have to do with skill or sreifa versus Neroi L'Chokim, Hereg and Chenek. Ben Nega Ben Mitzvah Muskar. Mitzvah is a definite Mitzvah. Mitzvah Mukhar and Mitzvah is a question Mitzvah. Ben Nega L'Nega also could mean Ben Nige Adam Nige B'Kodim, where the difference is between Nige Adam, Nige B'Kodim, Nige Batin, various different types of Tzaras, man, clothing, and houses. Divrei Zuashkei said has to give the drink Larivas Egla and wringing the neck of the Egla Rufa, Taras Mitzora and doing Taras Mitzora. Rivos, arguments, Ela Rochim, valuations, Vacharomim, things which go to the Kohanim, Vatzmuros, exchanges of Karbanos, Vectations, and consecrations. V'kamta Valisa, you should get up and go. V'kamta is me based in. You get up from the court in your city and you go to the based in Yerushalayim. Valisa and go up Zuali, it's going up Yerushalayim. Dava Acher, another interpretation of Valisa is on open tangent. Become the base of Chir, this is due to the base of Midah Shalai Bana El B'Gobel Shalom Shalai be built at the height of the world. My time Uwaiki Bahar Kodshi, my holy the mountain, Bahar Mochoim Yisrael, the mountain of the loftiness of Israel. Esh Tuleno there shall planted. V'Nosa Anafro bear branch, Bosapri and bear fruit. Etc. Uvasa, however, it says Uvasa, Valisa Uvasa. The Basa comes to Rabbos Basin Shabiyavne, includes even a Sanhedrin outside Shalim, but only Rabbi Zera Meir L'Sheila. The question was quest outside Yerushalayim. You could still become a Zokim Mamre if it eventually reaches Yerushalayim. If the issue eventually reaches Yerushalayim, it's ruled upon then that it's not mature where the original question arose, as long as the matter gets up to Yerushalayim. Okay? Zokim Mamre Shora La'asos V'asa Chayav. If he paskin to do, and he did, of course he's liable. Horav La'asa, if he only paskin but never did La'asa, and he didn't paskin in La'maisa, he's potter. Horav Manash La'asa, so if he paskin on the condition people don't follow his psak, potter. Horav Manash La'asos, but if he paskin on with the intent to do Ava Pish La'asa, even though he hasn't yet done, he's already liable.
Well, also, it's going on him, not on the people.
What? That'll be the next case. You're right. It's going on him so far. But Lamais, it's going to go on other people as well. That'll be the next case. Okay, it's late. I think we'll leave this for tomorrow night. Mirza Hashem, tomorrow night also will be the shiur.